Yo, what's up, everybody? This is Sincere from the Standard 81 podcast, and I am back with another discussion. Today's discussion is going to be I can empathize. The reason I am putting this together is I believe that there is a certain difference between empathy and sympathy, and I want to discuss the differences between the two and how they relate to uh, how we live and how we use them in relationships to other people and things in life. But before I get started, go ahead and hit that like, that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe and leave a comment. Let me know what you think about these different discussions, what I can do better, whether it's lighting or whatever the case may be. I plan on investing more into this so that it can be a lot more professional and coming soon, outside of the things that I post on Instagram, which you can watch now. I am planning on putting up more video content as I get some more ideas rolling. But anyways, let's get to the topic for tonight. So the topic for tonight is I can empathize. Now, having said that, uh, let me go ahead and pull this up here for my intro. It says, in life, we can understand, uh, in life, we as people want to understand and feel how people are feeling. But there's a difference between empathy and sympathy, and that's what we plan on exploring today. Guys, there is an extreme difference between empathy and sympathy. While these two words are similar, the way they play out amongst us are vastly different. And what I hope to explore on a surface kind of level is the differences between the two and how we can better implement those in our lives. Because I think one is overshadowed versus the other. And a lot of times we want people to be one way when really they just need to be another way. And that brings me into the particular differences. Let's first go ahead and start defining words. Moving into the next slide, sympathy. Let's define that word. This is defined as an act or the capacity to be able to share feelings or interests of another, or the mental state which is brought into a sensitive area. That is the definition of sympathy. So, in other words, we are able to have a capacity to uh, feel what they're feeling and kind of get the overall gist of where they're at that particular time. And I think that's something that we can all that we all know and we all come to grasp with. But I don't think that's something that needs to be given all the time. uh, Feeling the way somebody else feels, or trying to get into their mental state is not something I feel needs to be uh, done all the time in every single case. But let's get into that later. Let's look next into empathy. Okay, so empathy is defined as an action of understanding, being aware or sensitive to various experiences, feelings, and uh, feelings and thoughts of another person. Now, that brings me to back to the title of this whole thing. Sorry, guys. I should have had these up. Rock with me here because I should have had these up, but I'm controlling all this myself, and so I'm totally new to all this. So just rock with me here. Um, Here we go. So I believe this is where we should be more grounded in empathy, not so much sympathy, but in empathy, because empathy is is understanding is not just understanding, but it's being sensitive to a person's experience, thoughts, and their feelings, but it's not necessarily trying to grasp it. You get what I'm saying? Is this is not necessarily trying to figure out what makes them tick and why things are. I believe those things are better left to professionals like psychologists, therapists, so on and so on. But to be able to empathize with somebody is just being able to say, hey, I get where you're coming from, and I understand that, maybe you're in a bad spot, or I get that you had this experience, and I can relate somewhat. Which brings me to the next point: sympathy. And sympathy versus empathy. And like I said in the beginning, these two can vastly seem the same, but if we look back at the definitions of each, which empathy is understanding and being sensitive to, while sympathy is the act of sharing. Okay, so there it is, the two words there, the act of sharing feelings and interests. And then the other word is understanding. And this is where this plays a part, right? Because when you're empathetic towards somebody, you want to, it's getting the overall idea of where they're coming from, what the spectrum is of why they're doing things, or where they or the relatable points, right? We can use that in sales, we can use that in relationships, we can use that in different platforms of our lives to help us understand people and grasp people, and be able to relate to them in a overall general way. But sympathy says, now I want to interact with exactly what you're feeling so that I can understand you on a deeper level. And here's what I have to say about that. I believe nowadays more people want us to have sympathy instead of empathy. Why do I say that? Because I believe that when people pick different lifestyles, or they pick different choices, a lot of times they want sympathy for it. They want us to feel exactly how they're feeling. They want us to have the capacity to be able to know exactly what it is they're going through, or why they're doing whatever. When in reality, most of us can only empathize with anything. We can try to understand and be aware of what it is that they're going through and how it is they're feeling, but we can never blatantly feel. And that's the problem. One of these has to do with knowledge, and one of them has to do with feelings. Sympathy has more to do with feelings, while I believe empathy has to do with more of knowledge and understanding. You can empathize with somebody and say that was still wrong. What you did is not good, or the direction you're headed in is not the best. Or and then on the flip side, when you sympathize with somebody, all of a sudden nothing they do is wrong. They become the victim. They become the person that is afflicted. And this is what I'm seeing a lot in this generation, and amongst people in general. And there's a correlation between, and this is just my own opinion. I believe there's a strong correlation between sympathy and selfishness, because sympathy says, I want you to feel a certain way because I feel this way, because I relate this way, because I grasp things this way, because I, because I, because I. while empathy says, hey, look, can you understand where I'm coming from? Can you relate to, and it is, and I believe that it's not that a lot of people can't relate to other people and where they're coming from, but I believe a lot of times people want that group around them of people that are going through the same thing that they're going through and saying, I sympathize with you because I'm in this situation. Um, Oftentimes it is said that, people who are going through bad situations want people who are going through bad situations around them, because it's easy to relate. Everybody's in that same mind state. But if you got somebody that's not in that particular mind state or in that mindset, you can't say, oh, you should sympathize with me because you know exactly where I'm coming from. They're like, no, I don't. I get why you're this way. I can understand why you're having these problems, but I'm not grasping why you're doing things this way and what this is for. I believe it's time for us to start shifting our focus and shifting our ideas and our directions more towards being empathetic and saying, okay, help me to understand where you are coming from. Help me to be more sensitive to the experience and the thoughts and the actions and the ideas that you have so that I can better understand your point of view and then bring my point of view into play versus if you don't think the way I think, you're wrong. I believe the sympathy and empathy thing needs to be more looked at. It needs to be looked at in a broader perspective. And now, let me say this. I believe that there are certain people that are ultimately going to be more sympathetic because of either A, that's their profession, or if you're somebody who is a Christian like me, you might be a believer that's more sympathetic person that can relate to the ideas. Christ was very sympathetic towards people, but then again, Christ was perfect, right? Um, and there's also other cases where your lifestyle and what you do and who you are leads you into a group of people and that have that same thought and mindset, and that's where I believe you can find sympathy. You can find people who are more leaning towards your side. If you look at this in a political sense, you have left wing and right wing, and they tend to be sympathetic towards each other because they can understand where they're coming from. And when we have the different discussions where two different conflicting ideas are arguing across the street, across from one another, I believe that the idea is for us to be more empathetic, listen to where I'm coming from, try to understand my thoughts and the experiences that we're going through, and let's see if we can come to a mutual understanding. The empathy is where we need to start saying, okay, look, I can't sympathize with you. I can't sympathize with you because I don't understand and I don't get it, and nor do I want to. But I can empathize, and maybe we can come to some kind of mutual understanding. Maybe we can come to some kind of common ground. We can say, I disagree with that point. I disagree with this. I disagree with that. I don't like this. I don't like that. Nonetheless, you're a human being. Nonetheless, you're a person here. Nonetheless, this is this, this is that. Whatever the case may be, I can empathize with you because of those particular reasons. And because of that particular reasons, we can come together and try to find this middle ground, the common point, to where we're both have some kind of plane to work with. These are the things that, especially in relationships, that I don't believe people discuss enough. For instance, there is a big difference between men and women in the way we think and the way we do things. And there's a book here. I'm gonna just show it to you real quick that I've been reading, and I would suggest all you read it. That kind of correlates with this, but it's called "Men Think Like Waffles, Women Think Like Spaghetti." Here it is. All right. This is a great book, not only for married couples but for single people as well. Uh, those who are looking to date, those who are looking to understand the psychology of men and women, because it helps you to empathize with the opposite sex more and kind of get into that mind state and frame of where, oh, I get it now. I get why you're doing. I don't necessarily agree, and that's not the way I think, but I understand. It starts to get you out of that mindset of selfishness and only wanting to see things your way, and start helping you to empathize with the difference of the other person. It helps you move aside what you think is supposed to be something is stop rewind the tape. It helps you move out of the way the ideas of what you think should be, and helps you to see things for what they really are. And I believe if we would do more of that, going into romantic relationships, going into business deals, going into entrepreneurship with other people, I believe things would run a lot smoother, because now it's not just one person thinking one way, it's all of us saying, okay, we got an idea, we got a thought process. How can we come to a commonality? How can we come to a common ground in dating and in relationships? Okay, I got a certain idea of what I want to be done, and you've got a certain idea of things that want to be done. How can we bring these things together? I believe I believe that this is only, I didn't want to make this one very long, because honestly this is just, to me, just scratching the surface between the two, because like I said before, these particular words are very similar, but it's just okay. So when I was on the police force for the short stint I was, um, there was one thing they always used to tell me: know the letter of the law, because it's one word that can make the difference between you being right and you being wrong, especially when it comes to the court of law. You know, you can have your whole case thrown out because you got one word wrong. One. This is what lawyers look for. They look for you to phrase something wrong, or make your own interpretation of what something is. And then when they come to cross examine, all of a sudden you're like, well, I meant it this way. No, but that's not what you said. Therein lies the difference between empathy and sympathy, right? One is based on what your idea, and the other one is based on what is known. So We have to start viewing it in these two words in that sense before we start saying somebody's right or somebody's wrong for the way they interact with people and how they view certain things. Ask them, ask yourself, what do you want from this person? Are you looking for sympathy or are you looking for empathy? Are you looking for somebody to completely relate to your situation and what it is you're going through? Or are you looking for somebody to understand what it is you're in your experience? Because those are two different things. And you have to prepare yourself that for a lot of people, they're not going to be sympathetic towards your situation. They may be willing and able to understand, but they ain't gonna rock with you like that. And nor should you expect that. The only person in this life that'll be able to rock with you like that is the Almighty. And if you don't know him, you should get to know him. But that's the only person that's going to be able, because he knows you, he made you, he knows everything about you, and he's going to be able to sympathize with who you are for that particular reason. But outside of that, most people are only going to be able to be empathetic with you. They're only going to be able to relate to you at a certain level because things are only built over time. And if you're only in your own head saying, I'm only going to rock with you as long as you can as long as you can sympathize with me, you'll never get nowhere. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And in the beginning, you're only going to get empathy from people. You're not going to get sympathy until you build a relationship with the person, until you build until you find commonalities with a person, until you're able to reach beyond yourself. And I'm going to tell you, for most people, it's hard. It's doggone hard to reach beyond yourself. We are by nature selfish people. We are by nature people who don't like to be giving. I hear a lot of people say most people are basically good, and I believe that's a lie. I believe most people are basically evil, and we learn what good is throughout our lives. We learn what good is through our religious through our religion, and in particularly mine. Um, we learn that Christ helps us to understand what goodness actually is, because most of us deep down inside are very selfish. We want things our way. That includes me. I'm not trying to bash any of you because I'm learning this myself as I go. So, in conclusion, I want to say this. Let's learn how to be more gracious with one another. We've been given a lot of grace, we've been given a lot of mercy. And here's how you know it: each day you wake up is a brand new day to start over. And I mean, even if you are ready to complain about everything that's going wrong, the fact that you're able to wake up and complain about what's going wrong is a blessing and a half. So let us be more gracious to people and let us move out of the way of ourselves so that we can actually start beginning to learn what it means to sympathize with people. Because right now, I can empathize, but I can't sympathize with you. And also at this, not everybody deserves your sympathy, but everybody deserves to be understood. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I think this is scratching the surface of this. I would suggest you look into more books and and read a lot into psychology, uh, and understanding and how to understand people, to better understand the differences between these two. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This is, once again, I didn't want to make this a terribly long discussion, but I did want to tackle this topic and hit the surface of it. Once again, I appreciate all of you that have watched my content. I appreciate it. Please leave some comments down below. For those who are going to rewatch, just say rewatch and leave as many comments as you can, and I will try to read them and embrace the criticism that you guys have for me. Uh, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you all. God bless. Peace.